we are back again. As always, I'm Matt.
I'm Drew.
And this is the Back Again Sequel Podcast. This is the only podcast that takes a sequel from the past and finds out if it was worth going back again. We have been very slowly making our way through our comedy sequel list, and we have finally reached our season 3 finale. Drew, how are you feeling?
Tired.
Now, Drew, what would you say is a bigger accomplishment in your life? Graduating college, writing and completing your first feature script, or finishing season 3 of the Back Again podcast?
Oh, it would definitely be finishing season 3 of the Back Again podcast.
I know that because your parents texted me today and they said they were very proud of us for finishing season 3. We chose 12 comedies and 12 comedy sequels, and we have finally reached our finality.
Do you remember when we started?
Yeah, like in 2022.
Okay.
Well, today we are wrapping up the season by doing a follow-up to Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and we are doing Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
In the deepest jungles of Africa, two tribes will fight a savage war unless a sacred animal god is found. So they're sending for the only man who can help. Jim Carrey is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls came out in 1995. It's written and directed by Steve Odekirk. It's starring Jim Carrey, Maynard Eliashi, Tommy Davidson, Sophie Okonedo, Ian McNeice, and Simon Callow. Legendary pet detective Ace Ventura returns for another adventure when he's coerced out of retirement while on a soul-searching retreat in the Himalayas. He must now retrieve an endangered white bat from a village located in Africa. The sacred animal was offered up as a wedding dowry from the Wachutu prince to the Wachiti princess. And if Ace can't track down the culprit behind the kidnapping in time, civil war will break out between the two rival tribes. So that is the plot to Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
I'll tell you what, it's better than the plot of the first movie.
Well, before we kind of talk about the sequel, let's go ahead and talk about that first Ace Ventura, because we don't really need to get into what's controversial about that first Ace Ventura. It's pretty obvious from its homophobic and transphobic nature. So this is like a very outdated movie, that first one that I'm talking about, for a couple different reasons. One from like, a cultural standpoint, and then also from like a comedy standpoint, because this is like when you could release a movie of somebody acting like a 6-year-old and it could make like $100 million at the box office.
Well, he was not even like famous at the time, was he? Wasn't this his first I guess he was like known, but he wasn't like famous, right?
Yeah, Jim Carrey was known for mostly being on In Living Color. This is his first like feature debut. And, they had this story in the script already, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and they were shipping around to other actors to see who wanted to do it. And there's a funny interview you can find with David Alan Grier talking about how he turned down Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and then Jim Carrey took it on, and he was like, "Oh, that's a bad idea, man. That's not a good idea." And then David Alan Grier even saw the movie after it was cut.
And I said, man, Chris, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I feel bad for Jim, but I'm going to support him because I was laughing. He was so nervous. He was crawling out of his seat. But nobody's going to see this movie. It's too crazy. I just thought, this is too crazy for America.
And just to quickly go into the budget in the box office, it was a $15 million budget, and it made $107.2 million at the box office. And a lot of people think at that time the credit goes to a younger male demographic that went back to the theater like multiple times to go see this movie. So it kind of slowly crept in and like was a surprise kind of hit and gained this kind of big cult comedy following. Not only that, then when Ace Ventura: Pet Detective went on like DVD for home videos, it sold 4.2 million copies in the first 3 weeks. So people, for some reason, really liked this character of Ace Ventura. So if the question came to you and me, why did we decide to do Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls as our season 3 finale? It's pretty simple. We didn't have a Jim Carrey movie on this list for season 3, and I didn't want to watch Dumb and Dumber 2. So
Which honestly, I was thinking about that movie a lot watching Ace Ventura, especially the first one, and I wonder how much stupider Dumb and Dumber could be.
What if we go track her down?
You're hot for my daughter. What? Am I right? What? Am I right? That's insane.
And, one kind of final thing about Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is when he gets selected to be Ace Ventura, he does do a major rewrite. And, you know, he's been on record as saying that he really wanted this role to be like punk rock, and he wanted Ace Ventura to be so over the top and so ridiculous that they couldn't turn their eyes away from the screen. He's also commented about the homophobic behavior and said, well, I acted so over the top and so extremely homophobic that you wouldn't believe it to be real, that you would almost like say, oh, this person is absurd. But I would argue that some people probably laughed at those jokes for the wrong reasons. And the one thing I will say about Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, is that at least there is no homophobic jokes from what I remember. Like they not only steered away from that, but they got the hell out of the country and they went to Africa.
They I don't know if that was because the first one was so successful. You think that it would have honestly tried to be a little bit more like the first one, the sequel, but instead they do. I just keep referencing Predator. They do a Predator 2 where they do a complete 180 almost, and they just leave the country and go. Completely new cast, completely new location.
Yeah, I mean, the only person that really does return from the first Ace Ventura is the monkey, and Steve Odekirk, who was a writer consultant on the first Ace Ventura. He wasn't originally going to direct. At first, there was a director, Dom DiCerchio. They started filming with Jim Carrey on set, but he just didn't kind of like the way that Tom was operating. So then he instead brought on Steve Odekirk, and then the two of them kind of rewrote the script. They did a lot of improv on the day. And this was Steve's like directorial debut. He was more so known for being like a writer because he wrote some sketches on In Living Color with Jim Carrey and wrote a lot of Jim Carrey sketches. So just to quickly talk about Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, the budget in the box office, the budget doubles. It goes to $30 million, and that's because Jim Carrey made $15 million on this movie.
Jesus. So it's all going to him.
It's all going to him. And then it had a box office of $212.4 million. It's the 9th highest grossing Jim Carrey movie. There's going to be some more fun facts and some kind of behind the scenes stuff along the way, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. In a lot of ways, this is another one of those. I feel like every season we end the season with a movie that is questionable as to if it's an actual sequel or not.
I think it is.
It is, but it also, I feel like, could just be a movie that stands on its own. Because whatever he does in the first Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, the only thing that connects the two movies is, I guess, the term pet detective. To be honest, in Africa, there's not like pets. These are just wild animals. Whereas in the first one...
Well, that might be why they dropped the pet detective and just When Nature Calls.
He still... I know, yeah, but he still does refer to himself in the second one as a pet detective.
Yeah, he's more like an animal rescuer.
Yeah, like when we open the movie, he is climbing up a mountain because he's trying to save a raccoon that, I guess, fell out of a plane during a plane crash. And... it's just like this could just be the beginning of a new movie with a new character. It has nothing like, it's not like they make an effort to try to explain why he's out here. Like
he's doing his job.
But you got to remember in the first one, he was like getting back a puppy from like an abusive ex-partner and giving it to a woman. Yeah. He's doing small pet crimes, and it's even a big stretch in the first one that the Dolphins people hire him to find their mascot, the dolphin. To go from that kind of simple kind of investigation to we're going to go to Africa.
Well, we go all over the place because we start in where do we start?
It's in the Himalayas.
Okay. So I guess we just stay in the Himalayas because then he goes to the monastery.
Yeah. But, you know, even the guy, Ian McNeice, how he like finds Ace like at that monastery. How does he even know about Ace Ventura? How does he even like find out about him? And I'm not going to get too bogged down with it because this is a dumb comedy from 1996, but we are doing a sequel podcast. And my argument is that on some level, this isn't a sequel because it is just kind of like a soft reboot. Or it's like a TV show, right?
I think you just have to imagine that he got really famous in between the sequels or in between the movies, and they just never address it.
Yeah.
which I'm okay with. It's one of the stupidest comedies of all time.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can accept that.
And especially like on this comedy sequel list, what we've seen are really dumb and bad reasons why they bring the characters back, or they bring the characters back that we love and then they put them in a situation that's not as interesting as the first time around, or they try to raise the stakes or something. And then on top of that, they're not even funny. So there's a lot of movies on this list where I feel like, okay, well, that story is kind of like episodic, but it is really funny, right? And with this movie, When Nature Calls, I feel like it's right in that middle ground where it is funnier than the first. It has nothing to do with the first one. And the story is elevated enough, but it's also just kind of like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. You're literally watching, it's like a 6-year-old wrote this script, and you're literally watching a man-child behave so ridiculously for an hour and like 34 minutes.
Well, that's a franchise.
Yeah.
It's not like that's new to the franchise. That was in the first one. That was a big part of the first one.
Well,
The big difference is that when he's acting this way in the first one, it's not getting any help from the script or from the direction. It's completely isolated, and the character just comes across not even as just like unlikable, but like as almost like detached from the world. Now, with the way it's directed in the sequel and the way it's written, he's more of a part of the world. So it's more bearable.
I don't know. There's a whole conversation we could have about like how disrespectful or respectful it is of what he's doing in Africa with these actors.
Again, you know what to expect with the sequel. So it's like with the first one, with how like offensive it wasn't just like so offensive. It was also like, oh, like for no particular reason, you're just kind of blindsided with it. With this one, at least it's like you know what to expect.
I think there's something to be said about how he behaves towards the people in the second one, because there's more examples, I guess, of him meeting people that are maybe abusive towards animals that he gets like kind of revenge on or snarky back with. Like I think about the scene in When Nature Calls where he's at that party and he meets like the Monopoly man and the woman wearing like animal fur around her neck, and he knocks him out and then puts him around his neck and stuff. And those scenes, I guess, play better when there is a agenda, which is I don't like people that hurt animals.
There's a reason for him to be an asshole like that.
Whereas in the first one, he really only experiences that with like the animal collector at his mansion. But who's to say if that guy's like not taking care of those animals? He's just like a rich guy. You know what I mean?
Just touching, the only thing I really want to touch on the first one, which I think really kind of exemplifies the difference between the two, and was one of the first scenes between Jim Carrey and Courtney Cox, the love interest, where he's just eating sunflower seeds and just putting the shells on her desk. And she's like visibly getting annoyed, but he's just like doing it to like, he's just not even thinking about the fact that he's doing it. And I liked that because it was a little goofy, but it was also like, okay, this is going to establish character tension between the two of them. So it's he's being a stupid asshole for no reason, but at least it's going to create a character complication in their relationship. And it doesn't. She still sleeps with him halfway through the movie, and that's not like addressed ever again. Here in the sequel, there's more repercussions. There's more reasons for him to act the way he does. And then when he makes these big swings and like physically abuses people, it's like, okay, well, at least he's standing for something when he's doing it. So it's a little bit more digestible.
Yeah. And that kind of brings up a good point, because like, why, like it's very similar to like Wayne's World. It's like, why do these women want to sleep with Ace Ventura?
That you think it would almost be like a joke in the first one, but it's not. It's just played straight.
And then we were talking about the second one because obviously there's the princess of the Wachiti tribe, and we're like, oh my god, is he gonna sleep with this princess? And I couldn't remember or not, and we go the whole movie and we're like, hey, he didn't like sleep with anyone. He's also taken on a vow of celibacy that he's gotten from the monastery. So I was actually like happy with that. I was like, yeah, this guy should not be sleeping with women and we should stay away from all of that. But by the end of the movie, we reveal that he's actually slept with the princess, has taken his virginity, and now he's running away from the tribes that he just like kind of saved.
Because the whole point was, that she was a virgin who was promised to someone else.
And, you know, like people cannot resist sleeping with Jim Carrey, apparently.
I liked it a lot better in the second one because, again, it had to do directly with the plot. It caused a complication that was the joke for the end. And he had a better chemistry with this character.
What, the princess?
The princess,
Oh.
yeah. Because I'm thinking of the scene where they're blowing the spitballs.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Well, at least also if they're gonna do sex in the second one, they're just gonna use it as a joke. Whereas in the first one, they literally like are showing us the sex scene
Twice, because he gets blown and then he gets the sex with Courtney Cox.
Yeah. And we're just like watching him react to it, and it's like, I don't care about this. Like, I don't. Why do I like? It's fucking, look at his hair. He's stupid. Like,
No, look at the faces he's making.
I know. In general, like, I would say, yeah, like the second one's got funnier beats and is funnier.
If you want to take it a step further, it's not necessarily funnier. It's just more efficient with the comedy. Because Jim Carrey's still as goofy as he ever is. It's just the direction and the writing is helping that instead of getting in its way.
Well, it's a weird sequel to talk about because it's like we don't really have a plot to talk about in the sense
There's a plot.
There's a plot, but there's really nothing to talk about with the plot because it is very...
It's an excuse for gags.
It's an excuse for gags, literally. And nothing's explained or connected from the first one in the sense of like why we're here, what we're doing, what he wants. That's not the point of this.
He helps animals.
He helps animals, and we just...
And he cares about animals except for bats. He hates bats.
Yeah, what fun fact about that, apparently that was a big thing that Jim Carrey didn't like in the script was that Ace Ventura is afraid of bats, and he would fight Steve Odekirk on it and say like, well, my character would never be afraid of bats. Can we make him allergic to bats? Yeah. And that's why. But
which that honestly would have been funnier, actually.
Yeah.
You could have a whole allergic reaction thing.
Yeah, then when he's running at the end, trying to get to like the civil war between the tribes,
yeah, he's
like
getting
puffing
worse
up in the face or something like that. But I guess Steve won that battle.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. Is like we can't really like talk about like the plot in the sense of like, oh, does this make sense for the character? Like, it's not one of those kind of franchises. This is literally, we have a caricature, a ridiculous person, and we're just going to episodically put them into situations just so we can watch them do gags or see how many gags we can do.
It's almost like talking about the plot of like a Three Stooges episode.
Some bits that I actually thought were funny in the second one that were maybe funnier than everything in the first one was the opening. I like the opening, which was the cliffhanger reference with the raccoon. As a kid and also as an adult, I've always really liked the Slinky bit.
The Slinky was like the first big laugh for me.
That was the first big one.
Because that's the thing where it's like it's bordering on like it makes you question, is this like offensive? Could it be construed as offensive? And it's like, no, it's kind of just like dumb fun.
Some other bits that I thought were actually funny was the fact when he's driving that car, it has to flip constantly to get into the parking spot.
Doesn't have to. He chooses.
I know, but I like the fact that that's like a setup and a callback that they do with that.
When he's doing that, when he's just riding through the safari, I'm just thinking of all like the little critters he's like running over.
When he visits the rival tribe, like near the or like kind of middle end of the second act, and he goes there, and there's the miscommunication between what he's saying and what his interpreter, Uda, and I guess this is like the one kind of like plot thing we can talk about. So we're setting up this big gag for him to compete in a bunch of like tests that this tribe is going to put him in to see if he's worthy of like living or dying or not, right? And like he's competing in, but we only get to those tests because of a misunderstanding that Uda, his translator, is translating wrong. So Uda he understands what the other tribe is saying, and he's telling Ace that, but then when Ace talks and says like, I come in peace, Uda says like, I'm here to harm you to the tribe. And it's like, why is we were talking about that in the movie. It's like, oh, so he can understand the language, but he can't like speak it back to the tribe leaders.
That was a joke that, like it I don't think it was like bad, but it like really didn't land because it's unclear. There's no reason for it to be a true accident. So it's kind of like, why is this translator making Jim Carrey seem like, or making Ace Ventura seem like, does he call him the White Devil?
Yeah.
So why he's literally making him seem like the White Devil? Why is he doing this?
Well, the goal of that misunderstanding was, I guess, to get Ace to do all these trials and tribulations, but
which would make sense if Ace was there causing problems for the peaceful tribe that he's trying to help. But he actually seems to be making progress with them. Like, they all like him.
Or this aggressor tribe, it could just be as simple as like, you're in our land, and if you want to get out of here, you have to do our trials and tribulations to survive.
That's fine, but why is the translator? Why is Uda?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you didn't even need that whole translator bit. And this all...
Well, you needed it for the plot. That's the problem, is you needed it, but they didn't explain it in any way.
Well, essentially, this leads all up to a one-on-one fist fight with him and Tommy Davidson, who's also from In Living Color.
Okay, nice. That's a good callback or
And,
callback, a reference.
And I remember as a kid, that was like a big selling point of the movie, like his reaction to getting the spears in his
Yeah.
knees and like the big fight and stuff like that. And his pain just causes the chiefs to laugh, and then they let him free and stuff. But overall, like, since that's like, that's like their big comedy set piece. And I'm like, that wasn't that funny. But the smaller moments, I think, are a lot funnier. And then there's just moments that are just flat out annoying and dumb. Like when he's singing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the car. Can we talk about that a little bit?
I don't want to, but
So apparently, that obviously that was improvised, but apparently there was actual like dialogue and stuff to the plot that they needed to talk about in that scene, but Jim Carrey just forgot his lines, so instead he just sang Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the car. And there's so many like loud moments in this movie where Jim Carrey's just making noises.
well, there's fewer than the first one, so
Sure,
I can
yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Sure, but it definitely is like, how ridiculous can we act all the time? Like when he's at that party and he puts all like that food in his mouth and he's like, I think I've got something in my teeth. It's like, haha, that's something like a 5-year-old would do. But then when he does the Monopoly Man bit where he knocks the guy out and puts him over his shoulder, I actually thought that was pretty funny. Fun fact about that guy that plays the Monopoly Man, he actually plays the skinny small version of Bane in Batman and Robin that comes out after Batman Forever. So in that scene, you technically have the Riddler and Bane hanging out at a party.
I like the Rhino bit.
Oh my gosh.
The whole Rhino bit was great because the whole objective, the sequence was so long, and the whole objective was Jim Carrey or Ace Ventura needs to overhear a conversation the bad guys are having in the safari. So he gets an over elaborate rhinoceros costume, and he operates it like a submarine, like a one-man submersible or something. And the sequence goes on, but I think I don't think it outstays its welcome because it is he keeps getting distracted from listening to the guys. The little fan that he has goes out, so he starts overheating. And then when the bad guys leave, he has to get out of the rhinoceros. The only way out is through a hole where the rhinoceros's asshole would be. And so he crawls out through that. He's naked because he had to take all his clothes off because he got too sweaty. Now, here's this. What I like about this joke is I think the joke would have ended there in the first movie. It would have just been like, oh, haha, he's getting shit out of a rhinoceros. Mm-hmm. What happens in the sequel, and what I think kind of like helps like a perfect example of what makes the sequel work, is that you have a family on a safari tour coming in, and they're thinking that it's a real rhinoceros giving birth. Yeah. So you have that miscommunication between the two groups of characters, and then them slowly realizing what's happening, that it's pooping out Jim Carrey or Ace Ventura, whatever. Uh-huh. That whole gag, I think, was a perfect example of this type of comedy done right.
Some other interesting things about Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls is Jim Carrey did not initially want to do a sequel to Ace Ventura, and he would not then do a sequel for 20 plus years until he comes back and does Dumb and Dumber 2. And his whole thing was like, I already did this character, I don't want to do it again, but he was contractually obligated to come back for a sequel.
For Ace Ventura?
For Ace Ventura.
Oh, wow.
I know. Well, it was also such a surprise hit that they immediately like locked it down, and they were going to make another one regardless. They would go on to make a prequel series even years later about a young Ace Ventura that we're not going to talk about because it's considered one of like the worst sequels of all time.
Well, prequel,
yeah. Believe it or not, Drew, most of the movie was not shot in Africa.
Oh, wow.
And even more than that, none of it was shot in Africa. But yeah, most of the movie was shot in South Carolina and Texas. Another fun fact is that Spike Jonze originally wanted to be the director of Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. At this time, he was only doing music videos, so he wasn't really known yet. And Jim Carrey was like, no, I'm not. That guy doesn't have experience doing comedy. I'm not working with him. But Jim Carrey has said later on that he regrets not hiring Spike Jonze because obviously Spike Jonze would go on to do great movies. And
was
also,
Spike Jonze doing Jackass at this point?
He hadn't created Jackass yet, and he hadn't even done like this would have been his first film. But I think I'm imagining Jim Carrey sitting in the theater for Being John Malkovich and being like, "Oh no, why did I not pick this guy?" And then, like we said, like the script was like heavily improvised, and him and Steve were just kind of like messing around for most of the time. But it's one of those movies where it's one of those characters in those franchises where it's such a like cult success because across the board, critics do not like these movies, and they do not like Ace Ventura.
What are the Rotten Tomatoes scores for critics?
So the Rotten Tomatoes scores for the first Ace Ventura: Pet Detective in 1994, it has a critical score of 47% and has an audience score of 57%.
47 is a lot higher than I thought it would be.
And like I said, the reason why they made so much money at the theater was they had a very strong younger male demographic that came to the theater. And then also those VHS DVD sales that came out after the fact. The second one, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls in 1995, it's got a critical score of 21%.
It's like less than half.
It's less than half. And then
wow.
But this is funny. It's got an audience score of a 72%.
Okay. That's actually really funny to me that the critics like the first one better.
Greenwald, hit the lights! The switch on the wall beside you! Go for it! Flick it, quick! Alrighty then. Shall we go to jail?
So as always on this podcast, we ask 3 questions lead to a final vote of was it worth going back again? And the first question is, does it work as a sequel? This is a weird one because, like I said, I don't think this is a sequel besides just the character being put in a new situation. And it raises the question, like, does every sequel need to have a continuation of that character from the first one? When we talk about like Sister Act and Miss Congeniality and Legally Blonde, I think kinda, because those characters are such staples and they're so like important to that first movie. But then when you look at like Addams Family Values and Wayne's World 2, it's like not really. Like we just want to see these characters do something again. So begrudgingly, I am gonna say that it does work as a sequel, only in the sense of the Addams Families of the world and the Wayne's World of the world, or the Wayne's World of the world. Where we are putting this character in a new situation. It is funnier than I can't put funny into it, but we are putting this character in a new situation. It is a continuation of that character. I think it's a better representation of that character just because of the environment that he's in. But in some ways, it's not a sequel because he's not a pet detective. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I'm 50-50. And I'm only more leaning towards it does work as a sequel because it's the season finale and I want to be positive.
Okay, good answer.
So he's not, if it would have had like, if they would have just addressed that this is not a pet detective situation, I probably would have gave it a stronger check, but I'll be nice and I'll say it does work as a sequel just because at least it's just a better environment for the character.
I'm going to say, I'm trying to remember the answer I gave for the Addams Family Value ones because I want to be consistent. I want to say I said no because it was a soft reboot.
It's a soft reboot.
I'm going to say yes for this one though, because it does kind of have the same, not problem, but the same thing where it's kind of like you're really not addressing the first one at all. But it was kind of like reductive, or it kind of like where Addams Family kind of went back and redid the first movie. This one really felt like it moved forward in a good way, where it's like, okay, now we're going international and he's doing bigger cases, quote unquote. They're not necessarily pet detective stuff, but at least he's still the same character. I was okay with all of that. And I thought, it's being inconsistent, but at least it's being inconsistent in like a productive way. So yeah. I would say that's why it succeeds.
Okay, well, that sounds like it's going to get a quick 2 checks right off the bat. So the next question is going to be, is it enjoyable / entertaining?
I'll say yeah for this one. It was interesting seeing this type of comedy done wrong in the first one and then seeing it done right in the second one.
Yeah, and the good thing about both these movies, I mean, the first one's only an hour 24. This one's an hour 34. This one felt shorter than the first one. And I don't know. It's definitely more entertaining and enjoyable than the first one. I think because you don't care that much about the plot. You're really just trying to find like this bat. And I don't know, just kind of, it doesn't overstay its welcome, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there are bits that were funnier in general in the second one, but there's also a lot more comedy in this. And in theory, I kind of like the idea of the first one more, where you do have a pet detective working with the actual cops. I think that premise is like better, but the story that they chose to do and the villain that they chose and just like how Ace Ventura behaved in the first one, it was like, I can't believe this was even successful in the first one. Like, David Alan Grier was right. This movie sucks.
Yeah.
So it is, maybe they've learned from their mistakes of the first one. And that's why this one was funnier. So, but not everything is. And there are a lot of moments where he is just being loud and really obnoxious and still kind of being mean spirited, but not like.
But that's what worked in the first one. So you got to keep it in the sequel.
I guess. So yeah, I guess it is enjoyable / entertaining, but only because it doesn't overstay its welcome. And there are moments that are funnier. But I don't know. It's like this whole, I'm very like begrudgingly giving checks for these first two. So that sounds like it's going to get another 2 checks. So the last question is going to be, does it need to exist?
This is where I would say no, because it's kind of getting the problems I have with it not being a direct sequel kind of come into play here, where it's like, because we're not addressing anything in the first movie, we're not giving the character any development, so it doesn't need to exist in that sense. Even though it is funny and it does technically function as a sequel, we're not necessarily making the franchise better, we're just cashing in on it.
Yeah, and in general, I don't think Ace Ventura needs to exist. I don't think this character has like the success of the second one is, I think, connected to the lack of success with the first one from a comedy standpoint. Like, I think this one's funnier because we could compare it to the first one, but in general, that first one they didn't do right, I don't feel like. And the second one, it's like, well, at least they didn't do what they did in the first one, and there are funnier bits because we're in this like, you know, more beautiful like jungle environment. So, but that's not enough to exist. And to be honest, when you look at his filmography, like, he's got other characters that are more funnier, that are bigger, had a bigger stamp on society. So no, I don't think it needs to exist either. And I'm worried because as early as 2021, there were rumors that Jim Carrey was down to do another Ace Ventura. And supposedly they were going to get the writers from Sonic to work on it with him. But that was like, 3 years ago, and who knows what's going to happen. But if Ace Ventura barely like was accepted in like the 90s, he is not going to get accepted.
Well, he was not just barely accepted. He was a blast.
He was a blast for certain demographics, but I think critically, and I think, culturally, people were like, this isn't like the best Jim Carrey can do. And this character in general is kind of wacky.
Well, maybe he wants to redeem the character.
I mean, I could see someone just stealing that premise and just doing a pet detective movie with a not like over the top ridiculous caricature like an Ace Ventura, but just somebody who really cares about animals and like wants to like solve them. I think someone should do that kind of reboot.
Yeah, you'd like a kid's show.
Sure, or you could just like, you do the kids show, you have that prequel series that came out.
Oh yeah.
That bombed also. I think that there are certain elements of the premise that need to exist. I don't think Ace Ventura needs to exist. And at his highs, he's just like, I don't know, just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. But at his lows, he is not a good person. So wow, if you're doing that math at home, that's going to be 4 checks and 2 X's. So it is going to get a check for worth going back again. I cannot believe we just gave Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls a check for worth going back again. That makes me feel like irresponsible. As always, everyone, thanks so much for listening to season 3 of the Back Again podcast. If you like this episode, you can listen to all 12 episodes of season 3 available wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch these episodes with video on YouTube. Just subscribe to @wag.productions. Or you can visit our Patreon page where you can watch the reviews that were taken down on YouTube. Just go to www.patreon.com/wagproductions. And we did it, Drew. We did 12 episodes of season 3, and, now we can retire.
Yeah. Now we're done.
But outside of that, you got anything else to add, Drew?
Alrighty then.
All right, we will see you next time.
Bye, 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 again. Bye.